Hey there, rednecks, preppies, redneck preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great? Good. If you're like me, you're a collector of military surplus rifles. They tend to have more needs when it comes to care and storage, particularly when it comes to preventing rust and corrosion. Even if you don't shoot corrosive ammunition through your old ladies, it's still quite possible to face the specter of rust thanks to how many old milsurps were constructed, such as bores that aren't chrome lined or treated with things like nitride and melanite. Anyone, gun owner or otherwise, interested in protecting metal against corrosion is probably aware of vapor corrosion inhibitors. VCIs release molecules that coat the surfaces of metals and protect them against corrosion. The product I'm going to look at today is Otis Bore Stick, a VCI that is inserted directly into your rifle's bore and protects it, at least according to the company, for 2 years against rust and corrosion. Does it work? Well, that's what we're here for today. First, let's look inside the package. No surprises here. The package tells you what you're going to be getting. In this case, it's a 2-pack of rifle bore sticks. They also come in shotgun and pistol lengths, and that's essentially determined by how long the stick is. And speaking of, here are your sticks. Not sure why they use the name stick for these, because obviously they're a cord, but whatever. In any case, the stick is 11 inches long for the rifle version, and it is attached to this plug here. Now on one side of the plug it is flat, and there you can write with something like a Sharpie the date you've inserted it into the bore or the date it expires, whatever works for you. And that's basically it. I'd like to tell you exactly what VCI compound the bore stick uses outside of Otis's metal defense name, but each company can use slightly different formulas to achieve the same results. Modern VCIs tend to include amine carboxylates or amine carbonates, and I'll be presumptuous enough to assume that these bore sticks probably do as well. Me telling you that VCIs are magical emitters of molecules that cover the surface of metals and protect them from rust and corrosion sounds, well, magical. Do VCIs like the bore stick actually work? Well, like everything, it depends. VCIs do work, but it depends on the environment, the metal, and how they're used. Laboratory and real-world tests show that VCIs can dramatically reduce corrosion, sometimes more than 90% when used correctly. They're used in industries like aerospace, automotive, and defense, and have even been approved under military standards for protecting sensitive components. Companies use them to protect valuable metal components in transit and long-term storage. So I think it's fair to say that VCIs have strong scientific backing and a long track record in the field. But here's the but. VCIs aren't perfect. They work best in sealed or semi-sealed environments like plastic bags, crates, or electrical enclosures, or gun safes. If the space is open or constantly ventilated, the vapor simply escapes and it can't form a protective layer. They also need relatively clean metal surfaces to work. Oil, dirt, or old corrosion can block the molecules from adhering properly. And choosing the right type of VCI for the right metal, like steel or copper, is also important. Now, as awesome as VCIs can be, it's entirely possible that traditional coatings like oil or cosmoline might prove more useful, or things like desiccants, if your storage setup isn't conducive to VCI use. So it's difficult for me to give you a definitive answer of whether bore sticks will work in your situation, because it depends on what that is. If you follow VCI best practices, I'm sure you'll get the benefits. This is a review, so I'm contractually obligated to provide some pros and cons. And this is going to be a short section in this video. Now, as is the tradition of this channel, I'm going to begin with cons. Now, a con, for me at least, is the price. Up here in Soviet Kazakhstan, they run $9.95 or $6.99 in Trumpopia for a 2-pack. Now, perhaps I'm turning into a tightwad, but that seems like $1 or $2 more than they should cost. If you have a large collection of rifles, pistols, and shotguns that you want protected with these, you could be looking at a significant amount of money. It might make more sense just to buy a single large VCI and put that into your gun safe. As for pros, they're dead easy to use. Insert into barrel and make sure that the plug is seated against the crown. If you follow the recommended procedures for VCI use, these should work just fine for you. So, do I recommend these? The Otis Bore Stick is an effective tool for long-term firearm storage, providing corrosion protection by releasing a vapor inhibitor that keeps the bore rust-free for months or even years. And it works best when it's properly installed in a clean barrel and in a reasonably controlled environment. That said, it's not a substitute for regular cleaning or maintenance. Now, while they're excellent for preservation, it doesn't remove fouling or clean the barrel, so firearms that are frequently used or heavily fouled still require full cleaning routines. Essentially, these are a convenient, low-maintenance storage solution, and their effectiveness depends on correct use and realistic expectations. Now, if they fit into your use case of long-term storage of firearms that are susceptible to rust and corrosion, which for many people may be a niche concern, I would recommend any solution that includes VCIs. But the Otis Bore Stick in particular. You can buy VCI emitters that do the same thing that the Bore Sticks do, but are designed for an area, not an individual firearm. On screen right now are the pods that I used to install in my gun safe. One pod protects about 11 square feet, so I tended to put 2 of them in my safe. They're about $30 Canadian a pop, and they also last 2 years as well. So depending on how many firearms you have and how much space you're looking to cover, the price may end up being about the same as how many bore sticks you might need. So all that said, depending on whether you prefer the bore stick approach or an area effect deal, is up to you. I'm recommending the bore stick if you have a smaller collection, and perhaps another VCI solution if you have more firearms or space to cover. At any rate, I hope you found today's video at least be vaguely entertaining and mildly informative. As always, I hope your milsurps remain rust-free. Take care, and bye-bye.